Hello and welcome to another edition of Power of the Pen. I am LaWanna Bradford, and I'm excited because it is Women's History Month, and we always make sure that we have great content for you during this month and actually every month. But today I have a very special guest who is no stranger on Power of the Pen, and that is none other than the amazing author herself, Cornelia Brown. This time we're going to be unpackaging not a news story, but a celebrated 20th edition of When Black and White Makes Brown and We All Bleed Red. And I know you may be wondering, what is this all about? Well, conversations about diversity, inclusion, equity, belonging is still very relevant today. It doesn't matter what narratives are attempting to be changed, but it's about the truth that needs to be told and taking ownership and preserving that truth so that we can bridge communities, that we can kind of shorten that divide, if you will, that we have between one another simply because we just don't understand. And so we want to break down those walls, break down those barriers. And that's what women are doing around the world. And this is one powerful woman that I want you to lean into and hear what she has to say as we unpackage her book, When Black and White, not when, Black and White Make Brown and We All Bleed Red. We'll be back in just a moment.
Crazy good time.
Hey, Connie, how's it going?
Hey there, it is going great. How are you?
I'm doing well. Welcome back to Power of the Pen. I call her Connie. Her name is Cornelia Brown. So here we are. We're here talking about, I cannot believe it has been 20 years.
It has been 20 years when I first began to write the first words about Black and White Makes Brown. So it is so special. It was a journey. Oh my goodness, we had multiple delays, but one thing that God always says, delay doesn't mean denial. Here we are.
Yes. And, when I was thinking about the 20th anniversary, that tells me that's how long I've known you. I met you when you were just promoting that book. Where's time going?
Oh my gosh. Well, and one of the things is when I started promoting it, it was actually a few years later. So that's when we met. But I began to write the book years ahead. So actually the publishing actually would say, we are like 2 years ahead of it. But it was such a dramatic thing for me to relive the past that I got stuck many times for months and just began to mourn again over certain things that took place. And it was hard. It was so hard. So this is why I wanted to get this book out now when I first began to feel brave enough to start writing it down.
So let's unpackage it a little bit. We know this is a conversation around diversity and inclusion, and you are an advocate and an ally. And so before we get into the book, can you give me just a little bit about your backstory and why is championing this cause, this conversation, this narrative so important to you?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And I just want to thank you for allowing me to have a platform here to share. Black and White Makes Brown is my story. It is the story of a Bavarian young girl that fell in love with an African American soldier, and not realizing what type of issues would begin to arise, not even between the two of us, but with the circle around us. And like I always tell people, I was very ignorant to civil rights, anything, because I grew up in Bavaria, Germany, in the land of castles and beautiful mountains. And we were nestled in. I actually went to a school that used to be a castle. So very privileged, and coming from a hardworking family in the restaurant industry, in the tourism industry. And so no one ever thought that I would fall in love with an African American soldier. And that begins my story in what I experienced. First of all, I had to learn very quickly. In my blissful ignorance, and maybe some of the historical facts haven't been diluted and brushed over, not realizing all the things that have been going on. And then, of course, I ended up having children, two amazing daughters. The good news is, even though people told me I shouldn't have children, or they would say they're always going to have issues. Well, they do. They're not issue free. But one thing they don't have, that they do not know who they are and where they belong. They are both successful women, and I have three amazing grandchildren. Our family is full of color, every shade and flavor of humanity, and we celebrate each other, and that's what black and white makes brown is. I share with you how absolutely shocked I was many times when I encounter racism, when I encounter not being accepted, and when I begin to read through history, all the horrifying things that have happened. And then, of course, the season that we are in right now. So that's me, just Cornelia.
Let me ask you this question, because I have had the amazing privilege of spending time with your family. And as you said, it was important for you, for your children to know who they are, their heritage on both sides. What do you say to them, and what do you say to others, especially now that you've written this book and you're known as a champion for diversity and belonging? When people present to the world a certain way, right? So even though there is a biracial, bicultural identity, um, there is still a presentation that the world may see only one side, and they're judged for that. How have you had to deal with that in your family and in preparing your children for the harsh realities that are out there? And what do you say now when you're on your speaking platform talking to diverse age groups about this very topic?
It's interesting how you put it, but first of all, um, I was absolutely shocked that we literally are being assigned colors that don't even match our colors. And so I would always tell people, when you say I am, for some people would call me white, what do you mean by that? What is the story behind in your heart why you're calling me that? So it is not that my children, even though I tried my very best to keep them from harm, but the world around them is so damaged. And as we were navigating through our lives, one of the things that we always were seeking is diversity, to stay and remain in diverse groups of people, because there was more safety than coming out of that diversity and then going into monoracial communities. One thing is, I wrote in my book about my family. My family was more terrified for me what would happen to me if my husband and I would get married, because they knew how others would react. So it was kind of interesting in my later years. At first I was very, very disturbed about that. And when you're young, you just going at it, and you really are just speaking your mind. But in my later years now, I am actually finding mercy and grace for those moments, because they were frightened. We had, I mean, literally, our family has been shot at. Our family, we all have been called every single name that you can call. And the one thing that the African American community or brown community, those names, they would add for me the word whore next to it. So you know what that is. First this and then whore. First this and then traitor. And all of these things. So we were called everything that you can. But one thing that I did for my children, I told them very young what they might hear. And I did attempt to explain to them, whether they remember this as adults or not, that those words don't have power if you don't accept them in your heart. And so even though they struggled with being called mixed. They struggled with, when they came from Europe to the United States, that one drop of blood thing. They struggled with all of that, but they didn't stay there. They found their way, and they're successful women. I have amazing discussions with my adult granddaughter now, who went to HBCU. She's going to be an attorney. We have two younger grandchildren. They are encountering this every time that I come into the picture, and they may be in the all African American community, and here I come. They call me Oma, and they make a decision how they're going to deal with that differences that we have. So, it is very interesting what happens throughout the years.
I think the one thing that this book does, and I just want to get your take, it brings in, like you said, it's your life story, but it gives a comfortable, maybe sometimes uncomfortable ground to have those conversations, to sort of unpackage the experiences. And even just the book title, I was thinking if my dad were here, he would sort of chuckle, because when he was growing up, he said we were called colored. We weren't black. That would be extremely offensive. Um, so it was like you were colored, then you were Negro, then you were um, Afro American, then African American, then black. And he's like, they just can't figure out what they want to call us. And I think that, like you said, why are we relegated to color rather than being seen in our humanity? I think seeing the cultural differences is one thing. Seeing ethnic differences is another. But to just make a judgment solely based on skin color is very tragic. And as you said, here we are. And I think here in the US, what we're experiencing now has exposed what's always been there. It was just hidden. And now there's been permission given to say, do all of these things that are so hurtful to so many people. What do you say to that when you're out, when you're doing your talks, and even when you're inspired to write books like this and your children's books that still speak about the same topic, but in a way that the younger minds can understand and relate to it?
One of the things, I wanted, the sad thing is that even as we are writing the books and we out there speaking in behalf of diversity, equity, and inclusion, the ones that really need to hear it are usually not buying our books, nor are they at the events to hear it. So I like to just do sometimes little surprises because, especially in the industry that I am in, I can pop into places and no one will, and I don't even like that word suspect. Okay. It almost makes you feel like, you some sort of criminal, but, um, but no one will suspect or even think about that this Bavarian woman, and they call me white. That's the label they assigned to me. Um, that I may have a very colorful family. So people will talk and chat and just be themselves until one of my family members come into the picture. And there's a lot of moments. And so as I'm out there, I want to speak to the communities that need to hear it and say, first of all, diversity is not scary. Diversity is not evil. Diversity is great. Diversity in all areas of life, diversity of thought, getting into communities that are diverse, learning about how other people think, what they think, diversity even with ethnic groups. There's a lot of ethnic groups that have a lot of diversity in it. And it's actually in many areas healthier to be diverse than just to be mono anything. And so I explain people, if you have been fed or if you are being fed that is scary, if you're being fed that is evil and should not be so, if people think equity and inclusion is something that should not even be talked about because everyone has it if they worked hard enough, if then again that those times of remaining blissfully ignorance is not okay anymore. And so I want to give people a chance to just come together. Let's have some real conversations. Let's see where some of these things are coming from. And let's explore why change is so necessary. And explore why diversity, equity, and inclusion is necessary. And why you cannot erase anyone's history. No one has that right. And why history must be shared by those who have experienced it and are experiencing it, and not diluted so it doesn't shock you the way it has shocked me.
Yes, we are here with Cornelia Brown talking about her special 20th edition of the book Black and White Makes Brown and We All Bleed Red, a book on awareness, the conversation around diversity, equity, and inclusion, acceptance of one another. And you can see above me is the QR code. So if this conversations interest you, please tap on the QR code and go to Amazon and get a copy of your book. I'm going to throw this at you, and I just want to get your thoughts. So we're having these conversations. They're very real conversations. In a world of a population of 8.1 billion, maybe 8.3 now, 8.1 billion people, and of the global population, between 15 and 16% are in the white category. But yet, this is a very real conversation that we're having. So, when you're looking at the majority of the world is black and brown, the majority of the world is not white. Why are we, especially here in the United States, still having to champion and fight to be seen, to be embraced for who we are? Because globally, we're the majority, not the minority.
Absolutely. You know, um, I was listening the other day to a lady, and I apologize if she ever hears this. I don't remember the name, but it was so interesting. And she talked about racism is actually deeply rooted in fear. So the fear of the brown, black, and diverse community to take over, where a certain type of people won't exist anymore. And that fear, angry people. I just spoke about this in church on Sunday. Angry people are really very fearful people. And as she was digging into this, I was thinking, wow, that is so true. It is so, in order not to allow others to erase that fear of it, wherever that came from, let's make sure that we are putting every stumbling block in their way, and then let's not acknowledge the hurt and pain that has taken place. Never acknowledge that. And let's talk more about the unfairness towards their group of people, which is really a figment of their imagination, if I may say so. And it is a tragedy of epic proportions. Sometimes when I talk to God and I have a conversation with Him, just like I'm having with you right now, and I'm like, Lord, are we too damaged to ever come together and really care for one another and really hear each other and really embrace each other? Are we too damaged that when you see me, all you see is the horrifying things that have taken place, and that even though I'm a first generation immigrant, shout out to all immigrants out there. I'm a first generation immigrant. Um, so my direct people, are still in Europe. It's all of those things, but they learned a lesson during the time of Hitler with a divided Germany, where they know what fear is. And so it is really a tragedy when people then begin to listen to others and take that on as a fact. Racism is the disease of the heart that goes into the mind. It eats people up at the core of their being. It damages them and their families so hard. But again, equity, what am I trying to say? Diversity, equity, and inclusion cannot be erased. No matter, all that's going to happen, LaWanna, it's going to come back stronger. It's going to, suddenly there are allies. You see it in when you look at Minnesota. You see it, the people walking the street, because once that unfairness is bleeding over a little bit and the ouch factor is happening, some people are waking up and say, wait a minute, we have to do something. But again, I really find it's deeply rooted in fear that has turned into anger and then has turned into hate and the disease of the heart and spirit.
I'm curious, as you said, you were the first generation immigrant, but your father, Opa, was here. And I know you had many conversations with him because he was there in your home, right? So he's a part of this family, but a deeper community. Here he is, a Bavarian man who's here in the United States, but in this multicultural, um, as you said, beautiful shades and flavor of a family. And having lived in that with you and seeing what was happening outside the walls of your home, what were his thoughts? What were his perceptions about the world as we stand today?
It was, first of all, what an amazing gift it was, those 15 years with my father, because we for a long time, we had a broken relationship, and not because of him not accepting my husband, but just many other factors, and us moving to the United States. So when certain things would take place, he had an awakening. So that's why I was telling people, why you're so afraid of the word woke. I feel it, woke and awakening is related. He had an awakening. He saw some things taking place, and he was shocked. He was utterly shocked, just like I was when I first came over here. And he never had to live the life of a diverse family. He never experienced that. It was interesting, but also he was such a Charlie old Ranger. He really was. He would share what they went through during the war in Europe. They weren't considered Aryan nation people. Bavarians, mountain people, we all had a little Eastern look to ourselves, like Hungarian, Italian type of stuff. And that was not considered Aryan nation, not blonde and blue-eyed and all of that stuff. And so they had to go through a tremendous amount. And when he came over and he began to be exposed to African American history, and then began to experience how some communities completely ignore or acknowledge that this even happened in that horrifying way, he began to say, why do I feel such a similar feeling, like people ignored what the dictatorship in Europe did? Millions of people died. And by the way, if you ever look at the history of Germany, not just the Jewish community was affected by that. Communities of color, okay, and for example, the gypsy people, they were murdered for not being considered pure. Again, coming from some place of fear turned into anger, turned into hate, a fear of that Germany one day would not be that Aryan nation type of people. And he, LaWanna, he cried sometimes. When we would go to Tuskegee, Alabama, where my husband is from, and there is a statue right outside Tuskegee University of a slavery type of statue. And he just stood there and he looked at it. Guys, you have Google, just check it out. He was so moved. And then he looked at my in-laws, and he looked at my husband, and you could see that awakening taking place of that horrificness that is going on. I could talk about this. I mean, it is just incredible what's going on right now.
I just looked up the name of the statue, and it's called Emancipation, Lifting the Veil of Ignorance at Tuskegee University.
Yeah.
So, and it's about, and it says the deeper meaning is about education as the pathway out of slavery and oppression, because some people are wondering, well, why would Tuskegee have that in front of its university? But again, looking at education as a means. Yes.
And education was fought so hard. It was fought so hard because if you keep people uneducated, and if you keep people thinking even that they don't have a right to be educated, that was what the plan was. However, God had a different plan, didn't he? We have doctors, again, we have, let me say this too. Some of the most educated people are people from Africa, of people in the United States, taking care of even your children, even your family members when they go to the hospital. Aren't you glad that that somebody fought that good fight? But oh my goodness, it is, and again, to have my father standing there, we didn't get, we knew nothing about this. Zero, nada. We learned about, our own European history. We had to learn
Right.
about Hitler's history. And actually, Germany is not doing a bad job in keeping those sites open. If anybody ever goes to Germany, don't just visit the pretty, fuzzy, warm and fuzzy places. Go to Auschwitz, check it out. Go to the places where humanity took a turn and evil, demonic things took place. And then come back here and say, that I will never condone. And let me tell you, silence is complicity. Ouch.
Let me ask you this question, and I'm kind of thinking about how I want to phrase this. So, the title of your book, Black and White Mixed Brown, this edition you added, and we all bleed red. And some people may look at it and think, okay, are you saying that you want us to be seen as a colorless society? Meaning, how people will often say, I don't see color, I just see you as a person. But when you're looking at people who are of color, our feeling is, well, if you don't see my color, you don't see me, meaning you don't see the experience that has come with this color. So I'm wanting to get your take on why it was important for you to say we all bleed red. What and you put an exclamation. What is it that you want people to walk away with that notion?
First of all, black and white makes brown is not even correct because black and white makes gray, right? But this came from my granddaughter. It's so interesting that small children, they do not tap into the colors that we are. They don't, no matter how different the family is, they don't even realize how different the family is until they begin to interact with the outside world and whatever those children or even adults have been, brainwashed with, that is what they're going to experience. Our last name happens to be Brown. So my little baby granddaughter, maybe about 4 years old, 5 years old, I don't remember exactly, but she came out from kindergarten and she just realized when I came to pick her up because my daughter couldn't get her or something like this. And then other kids were seeing, well, who is this? Well, this is my grandma. This is my Oma. This is your Oma? How can that be your Oma? And that began that. But she was so cute. She came to the car. And then that's what she said. I know why our last name is Brown, because black and white makes brown. You see, children are so much simpler than we are. The more we talk about color, the more complicated we're going to get. We need to love our colors, but we are every shade of color. You're not just a regular brown. You can elaborate on that brown, but yet you are so much more than that brown. You're not just what people see. You are what you have lived. You are your experiences. You are whatever your morals are. That's what you are. And this color game, the colorism or whatever people call it, I was shocked that even in different communities, if you don't match that color, there's colorism. And even though they all may be called black, but so we all bleed red. I'm like, isn't that just simpler if we all, when we hurt, when we cut ourselves, our blood is red. I don't have my red rose again. I have an organization called the Red Rose Conquerors, and where we, a community of loving people, having, just coming together, diverse people and entrepreneurs, and we we come under the color of red. We all bleed red.
Today, remember, I am created to succeed, designed to win, equipped to overcome, anointed to prosper, and blessed to be a blessing.
But that came from my grandbaby, how she saw this moment, realizing my grandma is different. She never for 5 years realized how different I was until the outside world told her that.
I love that. We'll be back in a moment where we will unpackage more of the story behind the book, Black and White Makes Brown, and We All Bleed Red by Cornelia Brown. Okay, if you are interested in being a part of Power of the Pen, you may be an author or there's a book that has inspired you and you just want to share it with the world, it's real easy. How you do it is send an email to me at LaWanna at BradfordGroupMTG.com with Power of the Pen in the subject line, and a member of our team will get with you. We'll have a dialogue to see if your story, your idea fits our show, and we'd love to have you as a part of Power the Pen. But right now we are going to unpackage a little bit more of Cornelia Brown. So you've written this book. It's been 20 years. And now you've been inspired to write the anniversary edition, 20th anniversary edition. In these 20 years, in this journey of advocacy and allyship, how have you changed? And what changes have you seen that you have made as a result of this?
I love that. And one of the things that I did, again, as I began to write this book, I wrote it from an aching heart. Aching heart. And I just had to give birth to it, and I kept getting stuck. And again, the anniversary edition is not when it was first published, but when I wrote the first word. That's when I wrote the first words of it. And it took me a long time to get through it because I wrote it straight from my heart. Guys, I am a editor's nightmare, because especially when I get very passionate, I still to this day sometimes speak Germanish and I write Germanish. So I just want to just invite everybody to just take a closer look throughout the years in what your belief systems are. And just begin to understand that throughout the years we changes. I found grace for family members who I had no grace for, how frightened they were with all the things that were going on. They were frightened for me. That wasn't racism. They were terrified what was going to happen to me because of a racist world. And so that is what was taking place with that. So I began to comment on my own book. Just comment all throughout it. I have reflections that are sprinkled in there. And the new editors, because a completely different company has helped me to birth this this edition. So it is the same yet different with my reflections in it. So take a look at it. Again, read it and maybe have that open some discussions that you will have with other people about how you feel about race, how you feel about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And you know what? Let's meet on the bridge of communication. Let's meet on the bridge of love and just getting to a place where we don't have to agree with everything. We don't, but we need to have unity to show that we can live in different spaces, look different, talk different, all of these things, but we can find that common place of humanity. I can't hear you, so okay.
One of the things that I would like you to share with the audience is, and and I don't know how many years you've actually been participating in Loving Day, but this is all part of your advocacy and allyship in creating these safe spaces for conversation and transformation. So, would you mind taking a little bit of time and educating some of our viewers on what is Loving Day? How can we be a part of this activity, not just on the day, but every day of our lives?
Absolutely. Loving Day, June 12th, 1967, was an important day for interracial couple. That's what they call us, interracial couples. I believe only in one race, the human race. Even though I think he's Martian sometimes. I always tell people that. But here we go. Mrs. Loving, that's a couple, Mr. and Mrs. Loving. You can watch the movie. Mrs. Loving wrote a letter to the Kennedys because they kept being arrested, and at the end they got charged with a felony for race mixing. That's what the felony was. And so she wrote a letter because she still was incarcerated to get help. And the Kennedys got involved. And on June 12th, 1967, the Supreme Court rendered all laws of the land that forbid Black and white to get married, and to be thrown into jail for getting married, unenforceable. So the sad part was, all the way up until the early 2000s, some states refused to take it off of their, whatever. They kept it on there. So again, to let people know that they didn't have a right to get married, that they didn't agree with that. But every June 12th or around that date, we are now in Lovejoy, Georgia. The amazing mayor of Lovejoy, Georgia has invited us to have our Loving Day event there. So we celebrate, we share historical facts. We have people from all different corners of the earth come together and celebrate every shade and flavor of humanity. So come out if you would like to participate and you would like to say something and speak there. Reach out to me. If you have a book about diversity, or you have anything that you want to share, reach out to me. We love to include you in that celebration. And let me tell you something else what just happened. June 14, the courthouse in Virginia, where this took place, has finally been put, this year, 2026, has been put on a civil rights trail. February 14th. And you know what was such a blessing? The Loving family sent me videos. I can't share them. They are private. I promise that. But they sent me videos of the great-granddaughters dancing at an event for her, for that moment. And we have family members at an event there. Again, February 14, 2026. This is how long this took to get That moment, that courthouse, so if you're ever in Virginia, go check it out or just Google it. You will find it on the Civil Rights Trail now. Woohoo! I'm so excited.
That's amazing how long it has taken. I mean, it's amazing how much fight, right, and push that we're needing to uncover history in a way that we can celebrate it and protect the narrative, protect the truth of what happened. So I think that's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. And for people who want to be a part of Loving Day in Georgia, Lovejoy, Georgia. You said it's June 12th of this year,
Yes,
correct?
this year, Friday evening is going to be a celebration of meeting of the bridge of unity, diversity, love, and peace for all of us.
I love that. So here's our final question because I know our readers love for our authors to take a moment and actually read a little bit of their book. And I want to give you that time as well. What's next for Cornelia Brown on this never ending quest? I mean, you're a champion out there. What's next for you?
There are multiple events that are coming up this year that I've been asked to participate in, which is an amazing blessing. And, I am always ready to spontaneously go out wherever someone wants to embrace diversity. I am ready to go wherever God is sending me to speak on that, and just to continue to have in different events throughout the year myself, and to just have people come together, every shade and flavor. This does not mean that now all of a sudden I dislike everyone that is white. I love, if you call yourself a loving white person, I love you dearly. And if you're not there yet, let's have a conversation. So I just want to bring people together. So we are going to have some coffee table rounds where we're going to post it on Facebook as we have in discussions about diversity. And again, why it is not so scary. So I hope you guys will follow me. And I'm learning from Miss LaWanna. You can find her on Facebook all the time and everywhere else. So we're going to continue that conversation. You know what I mean? And like I
Yes,
said, sometimes you have to be spontaneous with it because the need has arisen at that moment. So wherever God wants me to go, I will go.
I love
And of
that.
course, there's another children's book in the works. I can't help myself.
I don't know how you get all this writing done. Plus, you're cruising and just enjoying life.
Yeah,
I love it.
exactly.
So, would you mind reading us a little bit from your book, Black and White Makes Brown, and We All Bleed Red?
Absolutely not. Thank you for allowing me to. So I end the book with a poem that I had written. Oh my gosh, I've written it over 25 years ago and I added to it throughout the years. And that pretty much shares my heart throughout the whole entire book. And it's called To My Brown Children. To my brown children, you overcame the confusion of a world betraying itself, the tragedy of people thinking they are better than everyone else. But God turned this into the love of a Cherokee woman meeting an African man, and to the love of two German children of war in a faraway Bavarian land. You are the love of an Irish man and a brown skinned beauty, and the love of a black soldier and a red haired, light skinned African American cutie. Yes, even I, your German mother, who met this black soldier in a faraway place and proved that love has no color and for sure is not a race. You're the evidence that hate can't keep away love. God remixed our family with his mercy and grace from above. You are this mixture of men and women people try to keep apart, except God had a different plan and chose our family's heart. So let no one tell you that you don't belong, or worse, that you shouldn't have been born. Don't ever be confused about who and whose you are and that you're all alone. Let me tell you, you're God's best, and now show the rest. Anyone created by God, in spite of hate and turned by Him into love, shows and teaches the world the true color of love. Now here you are, beautiful, smart, successful, with big brown eyes, curls, and swirls, with your own unique experiences, smile, cries. Two stunning girls. Now they're grandkids. Two beautiful, smart girls and a handsome, smart young man. Even though there's still great division all over this land, the legacy continues to unfold. You're creating your own path in a still confused world, intelligently and bold. So continue to show all that racism is ignorant and a great sin. Keep God first in all you do and show the world real love always wins. Back to you, LaWanna.
That was beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. I loved it. Well, can you believe we are almost out of time, Connie?
Yes, I know we are, and I could talk to you for hours, but I know we got other things to do.
Yes, and contact information is below. You can reach out to Cornelia. She's available for speaking engagements. If you want to partner with her on any work that she's doing as far as advocacy, allyship, especially the upcoming Loving Day celebration on June 12th. You see the QR code above me here. Just scan it and you can get your copy of Black and White Makes Brown and We All Bleed Red, special 20th anniversary edition. You can get it now. It's no hesitation, easy breezy. Just scan and there it is. So, Connie, I'm going to give you a couple lasting words. What would you like to tell our listening audience before we sign off?
I would love for everyone today, if you can do this, go and play Louis Armstrong's song, It's a Wonderful World. In spite all these horrible things that are going on and all this unfairness that is out there, we all belong together. We all are a puzzle piece of each other. Whether we like it or not, we are puzzle pieces. And you know what? If you look at a puzzle, if certain pieces are missing, the fullness of the picture never comes together. So, you know what? Don't be afraid to reach out to somebody that looks different to you, that speaks different than you, or maybe even has some different type of ideas from you. But sit down, have a cup of coffee, and just begin to talk and enjoy each other and learn. Don't always insist that your way is the right way, but learn. We again have a beautiful world. Let us not be in such despair. One of the things that I always say, perfect love always wins, no matter what hate is going on out there. So, once again, my brothers and sisters of all shades and flavors out there, I love you. Go and get one of my books. Maybe get all of them. Just have a Cornelia Brown library. How about that? Um, and just read it. And if you want to reach out and we have a discussion, come on, let's do it. Let's talk. And remember, even though we don't agree, we never have to hate one another. Y'all have a super duper awesome day. Okay? Bye.
I love that. Thank you so much, Connie Cornelia Brown, for joining us on Power of the Pen. Look forward to having you back to find out what's going on this second round with your adversity, diversity, and allyship work. And definitely, we need to have another conversation regarding the upcoming Loving Day. And I know you and I are working on that documentary. So we're going to connect. So stay tuned for that, folks. We don't have a date yet when that's going to launch, but I'm looking forward to partnering with the work that you're doing, and to give just a little bit of some of my creativity in helping to reshape this story for perhaps a new audience or an existing audience.
I am so ready. I am ready. Love you and love all of you out there.
Love you more. To our listening audience, thank you again for joining us for another edition of Power the Pen. And just remember, in life and in business, when your vision intersects with opportunity, success is inevitable. We have hope. We have choices. And we're counting on you to make the right choice, to be a vehicle of acceptance, of love, for not only the generation now, but for the next generation, your shoulders will be the ones that they eventually stand on, and your stories will be one they talk about. So let's err on the right side of history, on the conversations of love and hope and inspiration and community and humanity. Be safe, be well, and we'll see you next week. Bye for
Auf
now.
Wiedersehen.